Hi, welcome to SBR Forum Videos. I'm Peter Loshak. This is Into the Weekend with BetDSI, the call we do every Thursday with Brent, the headlines manager at DSI, where we find out a little bit about what kind of action he's gotten on the upcoming football games for this weekend and what action he might expect to see between now and kickoff. Brent, thanks for being here once again.
It's good to be on, Peter.
All right, let's start off with the game tonight, Thursday night. Now, this will be released after that game has already begun, but I want to ask about it because it's such an interesting game because Pitt, they had an outright loss to Youngstown State last week, and now, they were a very small underdog on the road to Cincinnati. So were you just getting one-sided action on Cincinnati in this game?
We were. We talk about how, we move the line bit by bit until you eventually get some comeback the other way.
Right.
This was a classic example of Cincinnati being bet rather heavily at -3, -4. We went all the way up to 6, and we sat at 6 for quite some time. Now we've had a lot of Pittsburgh money coming back at +6 and +5. So right now we're at -4.5 on Cincinnati with a total of 50.
Really? And is that coming the other way? Is that like public money or is that just sharp guys?
That's sharp money now.
Now I wonder who those guys are. Those guys who bet it at 3 and now are just hoping for a middle, or are those guys who actually think that Pittsburgh +6 is a positive EV thing for them to do?
Likely it's a combination of both, because there's guys out there who are what you might call a grinder or what have you, who did lay the 3 and will now take the +6. It just got high enough. And there's other guys who will say, look, it's just good value with Pittsburgh at 6.
All right, an interesting game. We'll see how it turns out. And then tomorrow, Utah and Utah State, that'll be a pretty heavily bet game because it's the only game on the card, right?
It'll be heavily bet, and right now it's a game where we could get hurt on, Peter. There's a lot of money. We have Utah -7. That was sharp money, public money, everything. That line went up to 7.5. It's kind of been bet down a little bit, +7.5 with Utah State, but lots of sharp money on Utah -7.
Really?
The count has been plus about 3-1, on Utah State now. So that's a lot of public money taking the 7.5.
Wow. Interesting split. Usually you see it the other way. All right, then let's talk about some of the other games on the Saturday card. First, Purdue and Notre Dame. Now, there was a guy who posted on our YouTube channel that Notre Dame was going to be a great bet over Navy and that we were idiots for saying that Navy would be a good bet. And, of course, he was completely right. That same guy is saying that Notre Dame is going to blow out Purdue by 20 or more points. What's your action been on that game?
Our money right now is dead even. We've got good action on that game. It's been quite heavily bet. All of the money on Notre Dame is practically at -14. All the money on Purdue is pretty well 14.5. So
right.
As long as it doesn't land 14, we'll be fine on that one, Peter.
Right. And have the Sharps taken a position on that one?
No, not really. That's mostly public money.
Right.
Not a whole lot of Sharps on this one yet.
And then what about the UCLA-Nebraska game? That's a very controversial game as well. Some people are thinking that Nebraska is going to kill them by 20 or 30. Other people are thinking that UCLA is one of the classic home dogs in week 2 with value. What kind of action have you seen on that game?
Well, Nebraska in the last few years, they haven't been much of a defensive team, and you figure that's going to be a high-scoring game. We've seen that total run all the way up from 57 to 61, and basically we're at 61 right now on the total and haven't really got any money on the under. Our over count is really big, about 5-1 in terms of the number of bets we've had on the over. The money on UCLA came at 5.5. The money on Nebraska came at 4.5, and right now we're using 5.5, just trying to get a little bit more back on UCLA. The money's been really good, though. That's a heavily bet game for us, Peter.
And are there any games in college that jump out at you as games that have definitely gotten one-sided action where the Sharps and the public have both hit it?
Well, the Utah game, like I said, we're going to get hurt on that. That's for Friday night. If it lands 7, that'll be terrible for us, of course. But in terms of the stuff on Saturday, Clemson is a very, very heavily bet game, mostly public money there. They drove that game from -24 all the way up to 27.5 where we're sitting right now. And, of course, when people see a big line like that, -27.5, they usually bet the over. That's the case in this game here. Another one where sharp money, we've got sharp money on Toledo +3.5 and really? The +3 -5. That's an interesting game for us.
Wait, hold on. You got sharp money on Toledo, huh?
Sharp money on Toledo, yes.
Because I bet Wyoming pretty big on the opening, so maybe I should recommend.
Well, there's our proof right there, Peter. Sharp money on Toledo.
Not happy to hear that. All right, please carry on.
What else would they come? Auburn was another one. Sharp money +3.5 on Auburn. They're at Mississippi State. Mississippi State's favored by 3 right now. And, of course, LSU, the typical LSU is going to get bet heavily. We've got about 3-1 count on LSU -23.5, sitting at 24 right now. Sharp money was actually on Arizona. They're at home to Oklahoma State. When the line went to 10.5 on Oklahoma State, we had sharp money coming back on Arizona. And, kind of a strange one is this added game between Akron and Florida International. We've seen so much action on the total. It's absolutely crazy, Peter.
Really?
More action on this added game total than we see on a lot of the major games in terms of their sides. We've had huge action going over 51.5, and we've had some under action finally come back. We have to go all the way up to 56.5 to get under money, but it's been insane. I guess, like I said, if you move the line far enough, eventually you get come back the other way, and it was heavily bet on the over 51.5 all the way up to 56.5, 57.
So that's got to be like sharp money, right? I mean, that's not public guys pounding the over on a,
Well, and honestly, it's sharp money both ways. You got sharp money that might not necessarily agree on something or looking for a middle. Like I said, it was bet. Just kept getting bet 51.5, 52.5, 53.5, all the way up to 57 before we got any under money.
That sounds to me like Dr. Bob or Right Angle Sports or someone released it as a play.
We don't name names here, Peter.
Yeah, right, or Billy. All right, and then let's move on to the NFL. What are some of the sharp sides? Those lines have been out for a while. What are some of the sharp sides, and what is the public pounding?
Sharp money, a lot of sharp money which was on Philadelphia, which is not good because the public is all over that. Sorry, the sharp money on Philadelphia is on the over 42, right. Over 42.5. Yeah. It's sitting at 43 now, so it's finally kind of stopped there. But a lot of sharp money on the over in that game. Public money is all over the Eagles' side. Sharp money on Buffalo as well. They were betting Buffalo straight up on the money line. Finally, we've got some money back the other way, but the Jets were just terrible in preseason, so it's easy not to like them. Interesting enough, we had Tennessee Titans. A lot of sharp guys are betting Tennessee to win outright. The public's the other way on the spread. So if that game fell, say 2.5 or whatever, or 2 or 3 or anywhere where it wasn't a middle situation, it'd probably be pretty good for us. Like I said, a lot of public money on New England minus the 5, and a lot of Tennessee money on the money line. A lot of the sharp money is coming on the over 42.5 on the Atlanta Falcons game, and I think people probably just take a look at the way they aired it out in the preseason and expecting that to continue, Peter.
Yeah, I agree with that. How about Miami-Houston? Because I would guess that might be a candidate for all one-way action. That the sharps might actually think that Houston was a good bet, even at double digits, and the public would be in love with them.
It's actually, it's not really a glamorous game just because Miami's involved. I guess is the reason why we got bet quite big. Minus 10, minus 11, all that on Houston. When we finally went up to 13, we got money back on Miami. Even at 12.5, they were taking back on Miami. So we've got a lot of action on that game, but it's two-way action.
All right. And then before I let you go, Peyton Manning returns, and he makes his debut in Denver. He's a very small favorite, minus 1.5. So I might think that that might be a game that would attract public action.
Yeah, right now we're balanced, and because it's an evening game, we're going to get a ton of action on that game.
All right, so are there any public burial sides on the horizon in the NFL where if they lose, the public's going to get buried?
Well, those three that I mentioned, Peter, the Eagles, Detroit, and Chicago. Now, what a lot of people are doing with those three teams, they're putting them in teasers. So they're taking Philadelphia down to like 2.5, Chicago down to 2.5 or 3, Detroit down to 1.5. So those will be bad for us, and the public will get hit hard, I think, if New England loses outright and either of those three teams I mentioned gets beat.
All right. Thanks for all this great information once again, Brent, and we will talk to you again next week.